Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Kanika, and if you are new to my channel, which you probably are because my channel is fairly new, if you don't mind subscribing and also hitting the notification bell because I do a live podcast on Wednesday night with my best friend Vanita. It's live, and I would love for you to be a part of those conversations. And sometimes we go live just randomly. So if you hit the notification bell, you will know when we are live because we always drop the link. And we would love for you to come up on the panel and join in on these conversations. So I want to make a video about, and I've been wanting to do this for a minute that I really had to pull myself together enough to actually talk about this because it does bring back a lot of emotions. Although it was over 20 years ago, I can kind of still remember, everything I felt, at that time period in my life. But I want to talk about how God intervened to help me escape an abusive relationship. So I want to give you just a little bit of background on me. I was raised in a small town. And if anyone was raised in a small town, you kind of know it's one of those towns where everybody know everybody type of thing. And I was raised by my mother and my stepfather. My mother and my real father were married but got divorced. I couldn't have even been one lady. And so my stepfather is really all I knew up until I was a teenager. My real father remarried a woman who didn't like kids. So basically, he chose her over me. Um, and so I went numerous and numerous of years without even seeing my father, which, that's another another video for another day. But so I was raised with my stepfather up until they date my mother and he split when I think it was around maybe 13 or 14. But when they split, because he was the primary breadwinner, my mom started to sell liquor, um, basically bootlegging. I don't know if you know what that means. That just means that um, in certain counties in the South, you can't sell alcohol legally. It's a dry county, so in those towns, people would actually go to the liquor store, like buy like bulks of liquor, and then they would sell it to like the people in the town, like shots and pints and all of those things. So to supplement their income, my mother started doing that. So for a while, I lived with my grandmother. Um, because I really didn't, want to be in that environment with people in and out of the house, drunk and clowning and acting crazy. But my grandmother, she ended up passing when I was 16. So I had to move in with my mom. And I got used to, living in that type of lifestyle. It wasn't horrible, they were very nice people. I seen them almost every day because they would come down there to buy liquor almost every day and kind of became like an extended family, if you will. But nonetheless, it was still a lot of drinking and cussing and fighting because when people get drunk, they act crazy. You kind of know how it goes. So back then, the internet was in its infancy. So there wasn't dating sites, that we have now or any social media or anything like that. What they had back then was what they call a chat line. So what a chat line was, this is like 1997, by the way, the time period I'm speaking of. They would have a chat line, so you would call into the chat line, and you could hear messages of people who would leave them. Then they would be like, my name is such and such. 6 foot tall, dark skin. I live in this part of town. 21, whatever the situation may be. I'm looking for blah 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 blah. So you would listen to the message and then you could hit a key and you could respond to the message. So one day I caught myself getting on the chat line and I heard this guy on the chat line and he was, describing himself and he was like, "Yeah, people tell me I look like Chris Weather." So that immediately piqued my interest because I thought he was gorgeous. Now, Chris Webber, if you're a little bit younger than me, I'm 44 now. He was a major basketball player, probably back in the late 90s or so, a big one. So that immediately intrigued me. So hit the thing, we ended up exchanging numbers and he wanted to meet me. Now, I had to be about maybe 18 at the time. And I don't remember for whatever reason. I think my car had broke because I got a car when I was 16 that I know for whatever reason I didn't have a car at that moment. I think it may have broken down or whatever because it was an older car. But nonetheless, he came down because he lived probably about 45 minutes away from the town that I lived in. So he drove down and met me at Burger King. He met me at Burger King. I never forget it. I don't know if I drove my mom's car or how I got to Burger King. I don't know if my girlfriend took me. I'm not quite sure how I got there, but I know I met him at Burger King, and sure enough, he came out and he looked almost identical to Chris Webber. I was kind of stunned, like because usually when people say that type of stuff, they're making it up, but he really did look like him. So and then we talked and chatted, and he was like, "Well, do you want to go, back with me, up to where he lived, which is around 45 minutes away? We could, get some food, blah 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 blah." And me, when I look back on it, I'm like, why I went, and I'm like, why in the world would I just go all willy nilly with a man that I just met on a chat line with no car or no way to get home? It's just insane. But I did go, ended up going, and kind of never came back. I stayed at his house. He had a roommate. He actually rented a part of the house from this guy, and the guy was whatever job he did, he was hardly ever there. So we were kind of there by ourselves, and it was good at first. We had a good time. We hung out, um, went places, did things. It wasn't really until I wanted to spend some time with my friends that I began to see the real him come out. And when I say the real him, the controlling, possessive, manipulative him. I can recall I had this one particular friend. For whatever reason, he just could not stand. He thought that when we went out, she was taking us to meet other men, blah 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 blah. So he just did not want me around her. But me and this girl had been friends for years. So yeah, I'm gonna hang out with my friends. I'm not gonna not see my girlfriends because you don't want me to. Now this is a telltale sign. If they're trying to keep you from your people, keep you from your friends, keep you from your family. If a man is trying to do that, be very wary of that because that's a manipulation control mechanism that a lot of men try to do. So he would get really upset when she would call me and want to do something and I want to go. He was like, "Why would you want to go with her? She's a blah blah blah. The name they like to call women. She's a this and that and da da da. Why do you want to go? Blah blah." Nonetheless, I would go anyway after sometimes a blowout, but I would go. And then the one time I came back, by this time I had gotten a car because um he did help me get a car. Um he did help me get well, I got it was in my name, but he showed me how to get the car because remember now I'm only 18 years old. So my parents didn't really teach me a lot of the things financially that I feel like people really should instill in their children, particularly credit, all of these things. Well, he knew about all those things, so he helped me do what I needed to do to get me a car. Go to my girlfriend's house. She called me. She wanted to go to Dave and Buster's. Uh, go over there. Um, go to Dave and Buster's. We having drinks. Me and the girls having a good time. Next thing I know, I hear over the intercom, Kanika, come to the front. It's an emergency. Come to the front. I'm like, come to the front. Emergency. And we're all confused. Like, first of all, who knows it on what? So I go up to the front and he's standing up there. He talking about he came to Dave and Buster's because he didn't believe that I was there with my girlfriends and he wanted to see was I there with another man. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. So I had to end up, because he's getting loud and I don't want him to make no crazy scene in this establishment. I ended up leaving with him. One time I went over my girlfriend's house and we went out to dinner. I came back, my car was gone. He had a extra key to my car. I get there, my car is not there. He done came over there and took the car, then took my car, left his car, and hid his car now. He hid his car in his truck in the apartment complex, took my car away. So I don't know if he thought when I got back I was gonna go see somebody else or whatever he thought, but this is the type of stuff that he would do. And let me give you just a little bit of background on him. His mom woke up she had 3 children. Okay, no, 4. She had 4 children. His mom woke up in the middle of the night, um, and put the kids in the car and basically left his dad, snuck away because he was beating them so bad. He was abusing her and the kids so bad. She literally escaped Florida. She left one state and moved to another state, running from her abusive husband, which was his dad. And he also told me that his dad used to beat him really bad or whatever. So he's already coming from trauma. He's already dealing with unhealed trauma from being abused and seeing his mother be abused. So let me fast forward to um, there was a time I had to, okay, in the apartment complex we lived at, there was across the hall, there was my neighbor he happened to be a Caucasian guy, maybe 24, 25. He lived by himself. He had a little dog, cute little dog. And a lot of times when I would go outside to the car or whatever, he would be outside walking the dog or, just, playing with the dog or whatever in front of the apartment complex. So of course he would just make, just small talk. Hey, how you doing? Just nothing, just regular hello neighbors would do. For whatever reason, my boyfriend at the time I'm speaking of, he was so jealous of this man. He just knew that me and this guy were doing something behind his back or sneaking around. And I remember one day he came home and he pulled up, and I just happened to be standing outside talking to the guy, because he talking about the dog or whatever. And um, he walked up, he was like, come on, let's go in the house. Like, and the guy was like, hey, how you doing? He didn't even speak back. He didn't speak back to my neighbor. He just did not like him. So we get in the house, and of course he starts the argument, you effing that, da 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 da, you effing, all these racial slurs and blah 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 blah. This and I'm like, no, I know you are, I know you do, I know you effing him, blah 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 blah. And before I could even I the only thing I remember is a quick, like, moment where everything went dark. And when I realized what had happened, I could feel the pain of where he had hit me across my eye. Just, I mean, hard, like across my eye. And that was the first time he had physically hit me. I was so stunned and so shocked. I didn't even know what to say or do. I remember just basically crumbling on the floor and just crying. I just could not believe, that he had actually hit me. And then when he saw how hysterical I was, he gonna come down, get me on the floor. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry. I just love you so much. Blah 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 blah. This and this. I'll never. You never gonna leave me. We're gonna be together forever, and just all this type of stuff. And at that moment, I realized I had gotten myself into a situation that I didn't know how I was gonna get out of, because when he said those words, uh, I don't want to be without you. If I would rather not be here than to, or you not be here, we not be here than to lose you. I believed him. I believed him. And I remember there were times where I would sit in the bathtub as I'm taking a bath, and I would cry and I would cry and I would ask God, like, please, this is what I would be, saying in my mind while I'm taking a bath, help me. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, because he would say this. He would make sure he would say this a lot to me. He would say, um, if you ever try to leave me, I will hurt your family. And he knew my family meant everything to me. He knew that. If you ever try to leave me, your family is going to suffer. If you ever try to leave me, I'm going to come find you, and you will be sorry. When I do what I do to them, you will be sorry you ever left me. So in the heart, I felt like I can't leave him, because I believe that in order to get revenge on me, he would do something to one of them. So I literally felt like I was stuck. I felt trapped in an abusive situation with no way out. And I remember thinking one day I was taking a bath, I was just like, you know what? I'd just rather take myself off the earth, and I would rather take myself off the earth and save my family than stay in this situation that I'm in, that I just see no way out of. I just saw no way out of. I'm 19. I couldn't tell anybody. I remember going to work one day, and I never forget this. The girl who sat behind me, her name was Shonda Hawkins. I'll never forget Shonda. Um, that's when he had hit me in the eye. And when she's just such a happy, jolly person, so she would come in the morning and she would be like, hey, hey, Ganika, and I'd be like, hey, whatever. And I remember getting up, turning around, because her cubicle was behind mine, to go to the bathroom, and she was like, she looked, she was like, what's going on? What's going on with your eye? And then I wasn't expecting her. I wasn't expecting that question, so I quickly tried to make something up, and she was like, I know what's going on. I know how that happened to you. She's like, I know. I know this. I know what happened to you. And I didn't say a word. I didn't say anything. And she just kind of, looked at me, like, she was like, if you ever want to talk, if you ever need a friend, but you don't have to deal with this. And I remember turning around in our cubicle and tears running down my eyes, because I would just felt like there was no way out. I couldn't call the police, because I felt like if I call the police, when he gets out, he's going to seek revenge, and he's going to seek revenge on the people that I love the most. And one day, back to the Nather again. Um, I had went down to the gym, because in the complex there was a gym in the apartment complex, and the Nather came to the gym too, but he didn't come to the gym to see me. He came to the gym to work out like he normally would. I didn't know he was there. He didn't know I was there. It just so happened we'd be there at the same time. And he saw the Nather's car parked at the gym. So when I get back home, he was just like, soon as I walked in the door, he's like, oh, so you met that blah 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 down at the gym? Y'all sneaking away? Is that how y'all seen each other? Y'all deciding to meet up down there at the gym? I'm like, no, it wasn't even like that. He just happened to come work out, and I'm working out at the same time. It was no, like, we tried to see each other. It was nothing like that. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I know you blah 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 blah. And he proceeds to grab my arm and twist my arm so bad it almost felt like he had knocked my arm out the socket because I remember I was screaming that, you're hurting the arm, the hurting is hurting to the point where when he let it go, it was still hurting so bad. I was in tears. I was screaming. I was in so much pain. And I remember him saying, Get we going to the hospital, get in the car, we can take you to the hospital. So we get in the car, we go to the ER. He drops me off. He drops me at the door of the emergency room. He was like, "You tell them you fell down the steps. You tell them you fell down the steps." And I remember even going in there just crying, crying or whatever. So I get to the back, and of course, doctor come in, looking or whatever. He's like, "Gotta, get some X-rays, see if it's broken, what's going on with it." So the nurse comes in, with paperwork for me to sign or whatever. And, she was like, "No, tell me what happened again." And I was like, "Yeah, I was doing something and I slipped and I kind of fell down the steps and I fell on my arm and da 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 da." That nurse paused. I never forget it. She looked at me. It was a Caucasian lady. And she just stared at me for a minute. And she just kind of looked in my eyes. And then she could see. Second, she could see. She could see it. She could see it in my eyes. And I went back to do the x-rays and everything. It wasn't broken or whatever. So it just kind of, patched up, gave me some pain medicine. They said, I should be fine, in a week or two or whatever. Thank God. And I ended up calling him. He came back to pick me up. Then we went back home. And the next day, at the time we had landlines. There were no cell phones, or they were in the very early stages. So we had a landline, and so the phone rings that morning, and he answered it, and I got on the phone. He told him to put me on the phone. It was I was like, okay, who's calling me? And I was like, hello. He was like, this is Detective such and such from the such and such county police department. He was like, I got a report that you were in the ER last night. Are you being abused? Is something happening? Are you a victim of domestic violence? Something going on? And he was literally standing right behind me. Like he could hear the detective asking me this. So I didn't say anything. I didn't comment. I said nothing. And the detective was like, okay, that's what I need to know. And then he hung up the phone. I didn't say anything. 15 minutes later, I hear a loud knock on the door. Boom, 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 boom. And I remember we were in the bedroom and we jumped up, and he was like, Baba. They were like, Baba, police, open up, open up. And he was frozen. So and he was like, what are we going to do? I was like, you got to open the door. So I was like, I'll do it. So I went to the door and I looked out the peephole, and there were 6 police outside the door, guns drawn. They already had the guns drawn. And I was like, it's me. I'm about to open the door. So when I opened the door, they rushed in. They're like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And he came out the bedroom. Soon as he walked out of the bedroom to the living room, they tackled him on the floor and they cuffed him. And they were like, yeah, it's like, we're arresting you for, domestic violence. And they read him his rights and, blah, blah, blah. He just, surrendered. He didn't say anything. He just went on with him. So a couple of police took him out of the house, and then there were 2 left with me, and they were, interviewing, asking me questions about what happened, to send me to the hospital. Had he been doing this for a while? All these questions or whatever. And then they were like, does he have anything here? Like any personal belongings that you want to us to take, because he won't be coming back here. They were like, he's going to be a restraining order. He was like, if you don't take it out, the county is going to take it out. So there's nothing you can do about it, but he won't be coming back here. So I was like, well, he's some stuff in his closet. So one of the police goes to the closet, gets this bag out of the closet, which I had never even seen before. I didn't even know because we had a 2 bedroom apartment, so I had one closet, and he used the closet in the guest bedroom. So he gets the bag out of the closet, and he brings it back and opens it up, and he starts pulling out all of this police uniform stuff. So he was like, he's a part of law enforcement? And I was like, no. And he's like, why you got all these law enforcement uniforms? Like, what is all of this stuff? And I was like, I don't know. I've never seen it before. So then him and the other police kind of looked at each other. It was a badge, a shirt, like a specific county. Um, it was a city actually, police department, all of these things that clearly belong to someone who was in law enforcement. So it's like, we're going to take this with us. So they took that, ended up definitely filing a restraining order, but ended up when they took the bag back, I guess they ran the badge or whatever, and the badge and all the stuff that was in the bag came from the home of a police officer whose home had been burglarized. So I don't know if him and his friends did it, somebody did it and gave it to him. I never really knew the story of how the bag got into his hands, because he knew he wasn't going to tell me the truth. But they ended up getting him. They ended up charging him with that too, burglary and possession of, I don't know what it is when you impersonate a law enforcement, something like that. So it was additional charges from that bag that they got him out of. They got out of the house, so he was facing some time. He probably would have gotten out on bond immediately with the domestic violence charge, but that day he had to sit and wait for a trial for that. So, we ended up. I never saw him. It had to be. It was some years. Like, I never saw him. I never knew what happened. After that, I ended up moving out of the apartment. Um, just a couple of months later, and kind of moving on with my life. But that nurse, I knew, when I look back, that was divine intervention. That God sent the right person who had the right instincts and intuition to know that I was in distress and I needed help, and she was able to see that on me without me even saying it. And I'm so thankful for that nurse, because she saved me and helped me when I couldn't even help myself. And um years later, probably about, I don't know, 10 or 15 years later, I ended up finding out. I was 18, let's see, 20, probably about 15 years later, I ended up finding out that he actually ended up going to jail um, around that time, for him and his roommate at the time got into a fight, and he ended up unaliving, taking his roommate off the earth. I think he hit him over the head with a pole, or while they were in a tussle in the house, he ended up taking him off the earth. So he was dangerous. And all of that built up rage and anger and trauma that he had not dealt with. He took it out on me, and clearly took it out on his, ex roommate. So I really thank, God for hearing my prayer and answering my prayer and sending the right nurse in to help me escape a situation that I may not even be sitting here today to tell you about. That's why my prayer for this video is to reach a young woman or an older woman, any woman who may be dealing with this situation, and to know that don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the signs when he's being controlling, when he's trying to take you away from your family or your friends, where where he's getting loud and yelling and calling you names, because that's abuse. That's mental abuse and emotional abuse. You should not be subjugated to that because he's frustrated. Um, a lot of women uh, have been, were brought up to believe, me included, that, well, black men, they go through so much, they oppressed and this and blah 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 blah. And you got to stay down and da da da. No, 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 no. Their healing, their own trauma is not your responsibility. You loving them is showing them and letting them know that this behavior is unacceptable. It's not acceptable for them to take their frustrations about whatever or whomever they're going through out on you. And a lot of women have suffered at the hands of the very men that were supposed to love them. So many. I saw it. That's all I really saw growing up. Not necessarily from the men in my family, although, I will say there were times where I would hear, my mother and father, my mother and my stepdad fighting. Their room was right next to mine, and I would hear them fighting. They were young, 22, 23, too young to be playing house. If you ask me, I don't think people should get together and try to play house that young when you don't know who you are. You have no life experience. You're trying to follow a template of a matrix when you have no idea about life, family, or yourself. But nonetheless, that's what they were doing. So I think they were battling. Uh, in my perception, I feel like she was dealing with him cheating, stepping out, and they would fight about it or whatever. So I kind of heard a lot. And then me and my stepdad, we have an amazing relationship now. When men grow older, a lot of times they have no other choice but to, to settle down and stop shenanigans, the cheating. And so we have a great relationship. But I have to be honest about, I did see, and hear, that growing up. So it's really one of the main reasons why I decided not to have children. I'm 44. I don't have children. I will never have them because I just don't want to be connected to any of them in that way. I don't want to be tied to a man who um could possibly mistreat me, or mistreat my child. And then I still have to negotiate and be around him. And I don't want to do any of that. And I know in this community, there's a high chance, that if you have a child by somebody, he might not be the a person that you would want to share a child with. I've seen a lot of that. And I didn't want to put myself in that situation. So I just decided to forego motherhood completely in this lifetime. I made a video about why I decided not to have kids. It's called Child Free. It's on my playlist if you want to go back and look at it. Why I will never have kids in this lifetime. And I can tell you it was one of the best decisions I ever made because I'm free of drama, I'm free of dust, I'm free of all of that. I just work, travel, sleep, eat out, hang out with my friends and family, and I'm not connected in any way. I deal with men, the ones that I deal with, the ones I'm friends with. They're proven, to be stand up men, stand up guys. I've known them for a very long time. I deal with them, and I let it be, what it is. Not it's no, I have nothing against them specifically. I just think collectively as a group, they're suffering from a lot of unhealed trauma that they refuse to acknowledge or do anything about. And a lot of that frustration and a lot of that trauma comes out on the women, the very women that try to love them. And it's time out for that. We're in a new age, we're in a new day. It's the age of Aquarius, and we're not going to be anybody's punching bags anymore. So we will be alone before we deal with the mistreatment that the generation of women before us suffered. That's just kind of what it is. This is a new day and time. And I think a lot of men, because they've been able to, particularly in our community, they've been able to get away with this for so long. Now that when we are talking about it, it's an uproar. Oh, you know, no, that didn't happen. I is a very popular YouTuber, dating coach, whatever. He anytime this is brought up, the mistreatment and be, oh, that didn't happen. That ain't true. Da 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 da. They just don't want to look at themselves when everybody seems to see it but them. So I just choose to remove myself from, the situation of the collective consciousness of our community because it's toxic. And it is, it's toxic. And because they're refusing to even acknowledge it, the best thing women can do is really be careful about who you um, combine, interact, mesh your energy and your life with. Because it could really, really um, put you in a situation where you come out emotionally broken or worse because that unhealed trauma has to come out some way, somehow on somebody, and it's usually us. So my hope for this video is to reach a woman who may be in a situation and she's not sure or she's seeing it, to know that you have got to get out, make a plan. I understand a lot of these men, they will threaten you, threaten your family. I just went through the same thing, so you don't know how to get out of it. I would definitely encourage women to tell somebody, even if it's your friend, your father, your mother. Yeah, definitely tell somebody. There are domestic abuse, hotlines. I will drop some links, in the description, that you can call the Get Out, Save Yourself, Save Your Children. They are not worth it. Life is too short. It's too precious to be in a situation where you're not being treated the way that you deserve to be treated. It's a lot of times this doesn't end the way 9 ended. I was able to get out of it. I was able to escape. There have been many women before me that they weren't able to get out. It was too late. So hopefully, this video reaches the right people, and so they'll know that you're not alone. I've been there, that you can get out, and you will, you'll be okay. I've been able to thrive. I kind of know the signs now. I deal with men with a long handle spoon. I just do. And I know it ain't all of them, because I know I do. The ones that I'm friends with and I consider myself close to, they've proven to be stand up guys. But you know, I just don't. I just can't. That's why I again didn't have any children. But I'm gonna go ahead and end the video. Once again, if you are new to the channel, if you don't mind subscribing and hitting the notification bell, because again, I do the podcast, the live show on Wednesday night with my girlfriend Vanita. We'll be talking about these types of things. A lot of things that we go through as Black women, as mothers and wives and sisters, and all of these things. We'll be talking about these type of issues that affect us, and I want to make a safe space so we can talk about these topics, that are kind of swept under the rug a lot of times in our community openly. So hopefully when a woman will come and know that she has a place, if she's going through something, that she can express herself, and we'll be there for her, because at the end of the day, we all we got. we we all we got. you know it's important for us to uplift each other, as Black women, because we don't have the covering that other races of women have. We just don't have it. It's kind of the cards that we were dealt. So once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. All right.